Hey everyone, I'm back, and now we're going to continue the last of the series on success. So when we last left off, we were talking about my 4 definitions for success, and they are survival, happiness, achieving, as well as reproduction. Today I'm going to be talking about why those 4 kinds of successes actually tend to drive us and end up causing us to become obsessed with success. If you're new to this channel, welcome. And if you've been to this channel before, welcome back. No matter what, I hope this video finds you well. Today is going to be interesting because we're going to append success to a completely unrelated book, which is Immortality by Stephen Cave. I'll leave a link to the book in the description below, so you can get it if you want to. It is for me an excellent read and one book which I would highly recommend other people to read. Now, what I will be referring to in this particular book is with regards to the 4 different kinds of immortality that man has tried to pursue throughout the course of human existence. So to be more precise, what I'll be covering with respect to the book is the addressing of the 4 different kinds of immortality that man has been trying to achieve ever since time immemorial. And that is the part which I want to link back to the 4 different kinds of successes. And hopefully, in doing so, it is easier for you to see the link as to why it is that these 4 particular successes tend to drive us and cause us to be obsessed. But first, a little backstory. All humans die. That is an inescapable fact of life as it stands right now. And if you think about it, a lot of science is about trying to figure out how to help us to live longer through pursuing of any of the other 4 successes. And in general, we can also see this in nature. Animals of all kind try to prevent themselves from dying as well as to maximize their chances of reproductive success. And therefore, this is not just restricted to just humans. But for us humans, we are in a special predicament in that because we are able to comprehend that we are going to die, it leads to some quirks of the imagination that cause us to imagine that this is a possibility. And it might be at some point in time, but as of right now, we don't currently have the technology to do that. 50 years down the line, this video is going to be looked at and is going to be a relic of the times. So the first thing whenever someone thinks of dying is that how do I prevent death? So when humans look at death, they think to themselves, how can I prevent myself from dying? The first thought that comes to mind is prevention of actual physical death, aka physical immortality. Humans have been fascinated with the possibility of physical immortality since time immemorial. We have had plenty of things that have been said to increase our lifespan and to help us to live to an incredibly old age. For example, we had the epics of Gilgamesh, where Gilgamesh obtained a plant that was said to enable him to have immortal life. However, that plant was stolen and therefore he never actually got it. There are characters from mythology who have lived for hundreds of years. Even today, we are obsessing with the technology of how to prevent human death, through the use of telomeres, or inspecting the stem cells, or through supplementation, or through anti-aging properties. We are looking at plenty of ways on how we can prevent ourselves from physically dying, aka achieving physical immortality. And so it is partly my point that because we are afraid of death, because we don't know what lies beyond death, the first and foremost thought that we have is to prevent ourselves from getting into the unknown, aka dying and then passing on to the next realm, whatever that may be. And in doing so, this becomes our first obsession, in that it is the obsession of preventing ourselves from passing over to the other realm. And this is what drives our obsession with physical immortality. Once we embrace the inevitability of our physical death, our minds turn to a different possibility. Well, if I am going to have to die, maybe there's another life out there. And thus we have the afterlife mythologies, different variations depending on different time periods and different kinds of schools of thoughts, but generally they belong in the same category. The first is reincarnation, wherein your soul, whatever that soul is supposed to be, gets recycled and comes back into the mortal plane of existence, with either your memories or without your memories. That's reincarnation. The second is wherein you fall into an afterlife where you are judged for what you've done on earth, who you were as a person, or any kind of variation. but basically there is an afterlife. So those are the two possibilities. How does this relate to our obsession with success? This is the link I've drawn between success and the afterlife, and it is this. We are hoping for a better second life. We are hoping that if we reincarnate into something better, whether it be a better circumstance or whether it be a better kind of existence. Maybe, I don't know, if you consider a bird to be a more free existence, we hope to reincarnate into a bird. We could hope that we reincarnate into a technological age, or perhaps our parents are actually rich and influential and therefore we have very little things to worry about in life, or any possibility in which we are hoping that we have a better second life. And the same goes with the afterlife as well. We are hoping that by doing all the good things, by going through all the suffering, by going through all these trials and tribulations and whatnot it is, that we do our best as human beings, and by the end of it all, we enter into an afterlife where we are credited for all the good things that we've done, and we are judged as great and righteous and morally great people, and therefore we pass on into an afterlife which is much better than the life that we currently have. If you think about it, isn't this very similar to our pursuit of happiness? In the pursuit of happiness, we are trying to become happier within this life. Whereas for an afterlife, we are hoping to become happier in the next life. But no matter what it is, we are hoping for an upgrade in happiness, no matter what. And therefore, I suspect that because death has a certain finality to it, we are hoping that we will be acknowledged for what we have, and whatever happiness that we could not have in this life, we are hoping that in the next life, we'll get that happiness as well. So a simpler analogy of this would be if we were farmers and we sowed the seeds, we tended to the crops, we made sure that the pests weren't coming and things like that, but unfortunately we died just before the harvest. We're hoping that in the afterlife we get to harvest and get the crops that we were supposed to have. That is our hope. It is in a sense a kind of fixation on the state of justice in the world. We believe that we deserve happiness, and therefore any happiness that we did not manage to accrue in this particular life, we are expecting it to come in the next life through some form of higher power or whatnot. And one interesting thing about humans is that we really, really want justice to be served. If we find out that a convicted murderer ran scot-free, we hope for their comeuppance. If a child molester was released onto the streets, I can imagine that there are plenty of people who would very happily punch the person, even though they have technically served their time and therefore they are not legally culpable for anything else, by right. But it is a sense that justice has not been adequately served, and therefore we want things to be made right. And because of that, we tend to have an obsession over justice. And if we feel that our lives were not justified, as in our rewards were not given to us as we feel that we deserved, we feel a sense of loss. And that sense of loss drives us to have that justice delivered. And that's why the afterlife is an obsession over happiness. No matter whatever that happens, we hope that we leave a little bit of ourselves and a little bit of our impact on the world. This is legacy. We want to feel as if we've made a positive influence. Whereas realistically, we may know that most people will not actually make such a huge difference in the lives of the people around us. Most of us are not going to be a Bill Gates, or Steve Jobs, or Jack Ma, or Donald Trump, or Oprah Winfrey, or whoever it is. Heck, most of us are not going to be Hitler either. But the thing is, all of us have this particular longing that we want to make a difference in the world. Therefore, one of the things that drives us is making a difference in the lives of the people around us. And how do you achieve that? In order to make a difference, we have to know what difference we want to make and what plan we need to do in order to get that. And as such, this achieving of making a difference requires you to set it as a goal, as some kind of a milestone, as something for you to actively achieve. And this is how it leads to the third kind of success, wherein you achieve what you set out to achieve. For some of us, as entrepreneurs, we may want to start up a business, and therefore by starting a business, we make a positive impact to society. That, in a sense, is our legacy. For others, like teachers, for example, our legacy is to pass on a message or to educate the students of tomorrow so that they can pass on that chain as well, so that their lives will be better overall. As investors, we hope that our investments will ultimately help society, or at the very least help our loved ones to tide across their tough times. Whatever it is that we're doing, we are always seeking some form of legacy that we leave behind. Heck, you could even say that these videos that are being uploaded by myself are my form of legacy to the world. And I did get that from a YouTuber whom I subscribe to. Amazing person, but he basically gave me the motivation that, maybe this is something that I might want to do. And with some help and with some pushing, this is what happened. So my point is this: as we seek to create a legacy, we must necessarily achieve. And therefore, because we want to make our mark on the world, achievement and striving is something that we tend to obsess over. The last form of immortality that we have thought of is, in a sense, some kind of spirit passing on through our children. I don't particularly know why this is, but since a long time ago, it seems that parents have always been extremely protective of our young. Now, of course, you could argue that it is for reproductive success, but as humans, we seem to have a very strange obsession, or rather a very weird fascination about making sure that our children succeed. And not to mention, there are a lot of parents for whom they treat their children as an extension of themselves. This feeling of, this is my son or this is my daughter, and therefore they represent me in some way. They are an extension of myself. And if you think about it, isn't this another form of immortality, except through your children? It's like the ancient times when the nobles or the royals, in fact, used to believe that only people with royal blood could officially maintain the throne. And as a result, it led to a lot of inbreeding and incestuous relationships and things like that, and the entire line got corrupt. And therefore, a lot of royal blood families ended up being wiped out simply because they were no longer genetically functional. But because we have this particular notion that our children are some kind of extension by ourselves, we tend to regard their successes and failures as if they were representative of our own successes or failures. And so as a result, we get things like helicopter parenting, wherein the child is not doing very well and then suddenly the adult just swoops in and just handles everything for them, including what they eat and sleep and dress and study and who they go out with, how much money they have, what kind of jobs they have. They even speak to their directors, they speak to the school principals, they speak to the job employers and things like that. The parents do everything for their children. So if you think about it, isn't this a case of a parent projecting themselves onto their children, imagining that their children are themselves in a certain way? If this is true, and we have this innate fascination or obsession with making sure that our children succeed, wouldn't you also say that this is linked to our reproductive success, making sure that our children succeed so that their children will be able to succeed, and so on and so forth? And so because we subconsciously treat our children as if they were extensions of ourselves, that is linked to reproductive success. And so to wrap it up, this is how I suspect that our obsession with death eventually led to the 4 kinds of immortality that we seek, and how those immortalities actually bridge across into the 4 different kinds of successes that lead to evolutionary success. And that is why we become obsessed over success. So once again, to recap, our obsession with physical survival is related to physical immortality. Our search for happiness is related to the afterlife. Our desire to achieve something in life is related to our legacy. And our genetic success is because we project that our children are extensions of ourselves. So all in all, now that I've said all this and now that I've gone through all the links, do I personally believe in this definition of success? No. No, I don't. I believe that these 4 successes are good to strive for, but they do not mean anything in the long run. I believe that while these 4 successes are great benchmarks to have, they are not representative of all kinds of successes. In fact, I'm not even sure that I can say that any of it is truly success. Well, I think that these 4 kinds of successes are great to have as a form of benchmark. Remember what I said in the very first part of this series, where I said there is no such thing as ultimate success. Therefore, it is not my position to say that you are neglecting which success. It is not my place to say that this success should be something of your concern. Some of us are just plain not interested in certain kinds of successes. Some successes are going to be treated a lot heavier for some of us than for other people. Therefore, for me, this is simply a model which I use to help people to understand what their successes are. What is it that they define as success, and then to help to plan a path towards that. It is merely a starting point in a series of discussions. But ultimately, if you ask me whether any of this actually matters at all, I would say it probably doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Hundreds of thousands of years from now, the sun is going to explode, it's going to engulf Earth, and if we haven't got off the planet by then, we would all go extinct. And everything that we've done so far really doesn't actually matter. But that's a video for another time, and my thoughts on that particular subject as well. Let me know down in the comments whether you believe that our obsession with success actually stems from our fear of death. If you think otherwise, do write it down as well. This is a place for us all to learn, including myself. If you like this kind of content and want to see more of it, consider liking the video, because that helps YouTube to know that this is the kind of content you're looking for. If you think this content is helpful and useful for another person, do consider sharing it with them. If you want to hear more from me about multiple interests, multiple relationships, and multiple approaches to finance, consider subscribing to the channel. And during this meantime, you can also hit the notification bell, because I don't know when my upload schedule is going to be currently. I've taken on a few projects and it's currently eating into my time, so I don't have as much time as I used to produce these videos. And so right now I'm going to have to scale back the production for quite a little bit. So as such, I will produce a video when I can, but I can't guarantee it. So if you want to be notified when I do upload a video, hit the notification button. And most of all, I hope this video found you well and that you've benefited from it. My name is Gerald, and this is Multi-Loving Model. Be happy in diversity. Cheers.